Well, Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years. They don't allow our banks. Did you know that? Canada does not allow banks to go in. If you think about it, that's pretty amazing. If we have a U.S. bank, they don't allow them to go in. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? What do we get out of it? We don't get anything out of it. I love the people of Canada. I disagree with the leadership of Canada. And something's going to happen there. But if they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want. Mexico, we've had very good talks with them. And this is retaliatory. This is retaliatory.
The president told voters over and over again that he wants to carry out the most disruptive and chaotic policies he could imagine at the expense of the American people. Promises made, promises kept.
I was just with the president in the Oval Office, and I can confirm that tomorrow, the February 1st deadline that President Trump put into place at a statement several weeks ago continues. The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept by the president.
Forget the fact that Canada barely contributes to the fentanyl that's in the country, or the fact that in order for fentanyl to be so widespread here, Americans have to be the eager customers to buy it. There's no mention of how and why so many of us, yes, even the rich and connected, are addicted to this many deadly drugs. But putting that inconvenient truth aside, the countries named in Trump's trade war, they're responding.
It will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago.
You know, there's so many aspects of this tariff declaration that Trump has successfully figured most Americans wouldn't understand or care about when superiority is always the ultimate goal.
You have backed strong and forceful counter tariffs. What are they?
Well, let's see what President Trump comes out with. But I can tell you one thing, we aren't going to lie down and roll over. We will use every single tool we have in our toolbox to retaliate. 60% of our energy gets flowed down to the U.S. The electricity that Ontario provides to keep 1.5 million homes lit up in Michigan, in New York, in Minnesota, and the list goes on. Our high-grade nickel that we ship down to the U.S.
Would those potentially be sectors that you could and would target then?
Everything's on the table. Absolutely everything.
Energy, electricity, nickel. There's this odd assumption that as soon as both countries feel the weight of increased prices for things that we couldn't even imagine are affected by this decision, that they'll collectively say, I'm sorry, and turn off the flow of fentanyl to some unknown and unaccounted for amount. Now think about it. Who determines if and when Trump's targets have lived up to this arbitrary statement about the flow of drugs? It's setting the stage for a manufactured superiority contest where Trump will make claims about how great it worked, not by any established measure, but simply because he said so.
The potential for disruption between the U.S. and Mexico is enormous. Not only is Mexico the U.S.'s single largest bilateral trading partner, even ahead of China, but cooperation on drug enforcement and migration also key. All of that, George, now on much shakier ground this morning. As expected, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum forcefully responding to Trump's tariffs. She said Mexico will respond with both tariff and non-tariff retaliatory measures of their own. But she seemed to take the most exception with why the Trump administration said they're putting these tariffs in place. The White House saying, in part, Mexican drug trafficking organizations have an intolerable alliance with the government of Mexico. Sheinbaum responding, saying, "We categorically reject the White House's slander of the government of Mexico for having alliances with criminal organizations. If there is any such alliance, it is in the gun shops of the United States that sell high-powered weapons to these criminal groups."
Threats to retaliate so far, but no specifics?
No, nothing specific in terms of how Mexico is going to retaliate. They had a couple options on the table, George. They say they're going to go with the second option, but exactly what they're going to target in terms of U.S. products, we're not sure yet.
So while this administration has supported screaming America first and make America great again, they're banking on none of these folks realizing that the country is deeply engaged in foreign goods and materials that aren't just replaced in a couple of days for a lower price. So while Trump has their brains focused on worshiping him, he's threatening to also go after the EU.
It will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity.
Sounds like he wants to see how his first barrage of tariffs will go over. Whether or not MAGA will celebrate the exact opposite of his promise to lower the cost of energy, gas, and groceries before then going after the EU. You know, he must figure, I lied to them over and over again when I said higher costs aren't passed on to consumers, so who cares what happens? They're willing to jump off a bridge for me anyway.
We may have short-term a little pain, and people understand that, but long-term, the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. We have deficits with almost every country, not every country, but almost. And we're going to change it. It's been unfair. That's why we owe $36 trillion. We have deficits with everybody. We help everybody. We've been helping everybody for years. And to be honest, I don't think they appreciate it. So we're going to change that. We're going to change it fast. We're going to make America great again. We have to focus on our country. We have tremendous potential if properly used, and we have to focus on our country. Tremendous deficits with China, tremendous deficits with the European Union, tremendous deficits with Mexico and Canada.
Yeah, it's just a little short-term pain, despite the consistent promise that he'd lower the cost of things on day one. When in reality, after 2 weeks, he set the stage for raising costs on all of it. I mean, it's not like he and his Nazi oligarch Elon Musk didn't announce that they were bullshit MAGA supporters the entire campaign.
We have to reduce spending to live within our means. Yeah, that necessarily involves some temporary hardship, but it will ensure long-term prosperity.
More promises made and kept, I guess. Notice it's always temporary hardships that these guys are selling people to experience, while they never catch a whiff of those hardships. So if and when American consumers feel the pain of making Elon Musk and Donald Trump's wallets great again, the administration is sending out the B team to deflect the inevitable anger and frustration that'll come with these kinds of tariffs. It includes people like Kristi Noem, who like to play dress up to keep their impressionable supporters distracted while they spew complete and utter bullshit about the promised pain that's to come.
As you know, Madam Secretary, economists all across the board are warning that ultimately tariffs lead to higher prices for consumers, and that these tariffs in particular could see prices increase on food, electronics, and cars. The president himself acknowledging this morning these tariffs could cause, quote, some pain. How is this move helping President Trump fulfill his campaign promise to lower prices?
You know, you've seen the president take action already this week with Colombia, and you saw Colombia react in a very positive way that was good for everyone involved. Canada, Mexico, other countries have the opportunity to do exactly the same. So we have a strong leader. He has laid down exactly what he is going to do and what the consequences are. I encourage their leadership teams to get on board and to make sure that they're not pushing up prices. If prices go up, it's because of other people's reactions to America's laws.